everybody, my name is Mr. Francy and welcome back to Mr. Francy Reads. Today we are doing my reading vlog covering from the 23rd of April through to the 29th of April 2023. So let's get right on in. Before we do, I'm just going to take a moment to let you all in on the fact that I'm a little bit stressed. We are about to come into May, and not 5 minutes ago, I realized something that stressed me out about my TBR for May, and if ever there's a chance to give you some behind the scenes advice as to what's going on and all of that, give you a peek behind the curtain, it is in a reading vlog, dagnammit, so... I realized, for those of you who don't know, I listen to audiobooks exclusively. And whilst I do purchase the physical books to have them as my mementos on my bookshelf, I listen to audiobooks. With that in mind, I calculated that the total number of hours that it's going to take for me to get through every single audiobook I'm reading in May is 100 hours, which may seem like a lot to you, it may not seem like a lot to you, but to me, that is freaking me out when I have a full-time job. I just don't see how this is going to be possible. I'm kind of at this point where I'm like, do I even read? I mean, of course I will, but I feel like in my next reading vlog, I'll only be talking about one book. I'll be happy if I talk about two, because the first book that I'm reading is like 16 hours long, and when you have a full-time job, good luck getting through more than 16 hours worth of reading in the space of 1 week. I mean, if you can do it, I'm happy for you. For me, it's a struggle. All right, now let's talk about what I read in the week that's just gone by, and then we can get back to discussing the stressful month that's coming up, aka my birthday month, which is just way too funny. So first off, I have finished Behind the Voice by Anthony Kalia. This is an adult memoir, and I gave this book an overwhelming 5 stars. So for those of you who don't know Anthony Kalia, I spoke a bit about this in my last reading vlog. Anthony Kalia was on the 2nd season of Australian Idol, and he made it all the way to the final 2 before falling out to Casey Donovan. I got to know of Anthony because he was on Idol, but I've been following him ever since. Anthony Kalia busted down the closet door, came out quite proudly, and has been doing a lot of great things for the LGBTIQ plus community ever since, and is using his name for the greater good, especially when it comes to the LGBTIQ plus community, but also other things, other charitable works that he does includes assisting children who have issues with vision. He is the ambassador for Vision Australia, and many other things that he has gone on to do that I knew before reading this book. This book is a great look behind the curtain at Anthony Kalia's life pre-Idol, post-Idol, and even recently what he has gone through and how he got through it. And it's very real, it's very raw. I highly recommend this book. Anthony actually does the audio narration of this book, and so I always enjoy when someone does a memoir and they narrate the book themselves, and Anthony did that. I thought it was fantastic. I have a vested interest in Anthony Kalia, so I was hoping I would enjoy it, and I did. But when it comes to memoirs, I only select memoirs for people that I do have an absolute vested interest in. Otherwise, I might be bored by the book. But this is the first male memoir that I've read. And yeah, it was fantastic. So it's inspiring me to read a lot more male memoirs. I've read, I think, at least 10 female memoirs. So yeah, but this was fantastic. I do highly recommend. 5 stars from me. So many things I could talk to you about with that book, but honestly, you know, we'd run out of time. But yeah, Anthony's just very real and very raw in the book, and yeah, nothing's off the table, and I appreciate that. He celebrates his highs while he does not shy away from his lows, and so yeah, it was just really well done. And if any of that interests you, I do highly recommend either purchasing the book and giving it a read or listening to the audiobook, because either way, it was just a really good read for me. So the next book that I picked up was this book, Always and Forever, Lara Jean. This is book number 3 in the To All the Boys I Loved Before trilogy. It is a young adult romance, and I gave this book a total of 3 stars. So this book helped me to complete another series on my SAS list, the To All the Boys I Loved Before trilogy. This is the final book in that trilogy, so another series crossed off my SAS list. Woo! I'll take the win at this stage, even though we're only about a third of the way through the year. I am just feeling all sorts of stress. I mentioned one of the stresses earlier on in this vlog, but I'm feeling all sorts of stress for my reading this year. I don't know what's going on, honestly. I don't want to leave BookTube. I certainly don't plan to do that. But I can see myself being where I was at around about halfway through last year, where I was so stressed about my reading and that it overtook everything for me. So I may need to just take a slight step back with my reading. Not with my channel, but just with my reading. I put far too much pressure on myself. I mean, 100 hours to get through an entire month. I'm in just 1 month. Are you kidding me? Anyway, we'll move on. But if ever there was a place for me to be real and raw with you all, which I do anyway, but if ever there was an appropriate place anyway, it will be in a reading vlog. So I hope that you appreciate hearing this from me, because if you ever get stressed when it comes to your own self-imposed reading, hopefully this helps you to know that you are absolutely not alone. And, you know, there's a great saying out there, those who don't do, teach. And I'm very much someone who advises to not take it too seriously. Don't get too stressed out when it comes to your reading or the amount of books that you read or anything more, even more specific that could be even more stressful when it comes to reading. And yet here I am getting stressed myself. So oh my gosh, I'm looking at the first book that I need to read in May, and I'm thinking, like, seriously, 16 hours just to get through one book? Are you kidding me? And then again, there are books that are a lot longer than that. Don't get me wrong, but, you know, anyway, let's get back to what I was talking about. Always and Forever, Lara Jean. Okay, so I am glad that I've been able to cross this series off of my SAS list. It's been an up and down journey for me. Started off being down with book 1, got better with book 2, and then was really kind of more of a downer with book 3. So the premise of the third book is that Lara Jean has applied to college and has a plan mapped out for her and her boyfriend. He's already been accepted into a college via early admittance. Now she just needs to be accepted. But when she's outright rejected, not even put on the wait list, what will she do and how will this affect her and her relationship? So, to my thoughts on the book, I liked seeing the genuine heart and head struggle between what's best for a relationship, heart, versus what's best for your education, head, a lot. But otherwise, this book for me was just a way to wrap up the series. Because we were dealing with college acceptance letters right off the bat, it felt like the end of the series at the beginning of the book, and therefore felt like it just dragged things out from there. I'm not saying it's a bad book, not at all, just saying it didn't work for me. The ending was incredibly abrupt also, in my opinion. However, I did like how everything wrapped up. And yeah, so I gave it a solid 3 stars. Would I go back and want to reread this series? I don't think so. I think it depends on the situation. If I'm stranded on a remote island and these 3 books, I have them on me and that's all I have, sure, I'd reread them again. But if I were to have a choice, I don't think I would. Am I happier that I've read the series? Yes, because I would have always been wondering had I not given it a chance. So I'm glad that I've completed it. But yeah, I honestly found the series pretty average, and I feel like that's an unpopular opinion because To All the Boys I Loved Before, book 1, was turned into a Netflix movie, and I don't know if the others were as well, but clearly the books were that well received that they were turned into an adaptation. But I don't know, I just, for me, found the series to be rather average. So there you go. Anyway, for the third book in the series, Always and Forever, Lara Jean, I gave that book 3 stars. So to the final book that I read this week, which was this book, Never Been Kissed by Timothy Janovsky. This is a new adult LGBTIQ plus male romance. Okay, so I don't really believe in the age rating new adult. Yeah, it just is what it is. I just don't. So I either round up or round down. I would actually, if I'm choosing whether or not to round up or round down in this case and call this a young adult romance. And the reason for this is because I didn't really see any adult themes going on at all in this book. And so, I don't know, I guess it was given the age rating of new adult because in the first chapter, our protagonist ends up graduating from high school. So I guess our protagonist is going through that transition of teenager to a newly formed adult, I guess. But yeah, just the book itself just didn't scream adult to me. Whereas Timothy Janowski's other work that I read, You're a Mean One, Matthew Prince, was very adult. So I was surprised. But apparently this is the first book that Timothy Janowski wrote, Never Been Kissed. And according to Goodreads, this is book number 1 in the Never Been Kissed series? No. Okay. I'm seeing now what Goodreads is doing, and they're absolutely incorrect with this. No. Okay, Never Been Kissed. Apparently it's book 1 in the Boy Meets series. I don't know if that's a thing, and if it is, then it is a series where we follow different characters in every book, and we don't meet the same characters again in any other book. I can certainly get on board with that. I've done that with my Ian Rob Wright stuff, but yeah, to me this is a standalone. It's not part of a series, and apparently book number 2 in the series is You're a Mean One, Matthew Prince. We're just gonna let that go. Now, I gave this book 4.5 stars. So the premise of this book is that we follow Ren, who, as the title suggests, has never been kissed. He's had moments of near kisses, but never crossed the final frontier. One night after a whole lot of drinking, Ren sends out some drunken emails to all the boys he's almost kissed, letting them know how all of this made him feel, as he feels that they are to blame. Not too much later, Ren is at a restaurant where he spies Derek, the man whose near kiss haunts him the most. Derek is then hired to work at the driving company where Ren works as a newly promoted manager. How will they move forward considering their past and the emails? So yeah, that's basically it. We open up with chapter 1 and Ren is all, I would like to have my first kiss, but it hasn't happened. Then he gets drunk. Then he sends out a ton of emails to boys that he had near kisses with that he completely blames. And one of them is Derek. He then spies Derek at a restaurant, finds out Derek's going to work at the drive-in that he works at, where Ren, has just been promoted to be manager of, and it's going to be really awkward, and we'll see how things go from there. Look, it was, in my mind, a very typical YA romance. So again, I don't understand the new adult side of it. But anyway, my thoughts to this is, honestly, it was a rough start for me, but I think that's because as a new adult book, I found it hard to buy that the romance side revolved around a man who had never been kissed. Not saying it can't happen, it's just not as believable. In saying that, I grew to love Ren the more I got to know him, and I fell very quickly for Derek too. It was a great male-male romance, and I do highly recommend it. I can't wait to read New Adult once it's released, which is Timothy Janowski's next book. I gave it 4.5 stars, deducting 0.5 for the rough beginning. So it wasn't horrible at all. I would just recommend going into it thinking you're getting a YA male romance as opposed to a new adult or adult male romance. But yeah, for what it was good. I prefer You're a Mean One, Matthew Prince. If I have to compare the pair, You're a Mean One, Matthew Prince is much better. But this was Timothy Janowski's debut novel, Never Been Kissed. So I guess, I can see the major improvement with You're a Mean One, Matthew Prince, and therefore I look forward to Timothy Janowski's next book, which I just said the title of, New Adult. So yeah, looking forward to reading that one as well. Okay, so on to the plan for this coming week, and the first book that I plan to read, which will be on the last day, tomorrow, the last day of April, will be this book, The Horse and His Boy by C.S. Lewis, which is the 3rd book in the Chronicles of Narnia series. I'm doing a buddy read of this series over on the Discord. If you'd like to join us, link to the Discord is in the description. I've been enjoying the series so far, so we'll see how this one goes. This is going to be a quick read for me. It's only 4 hours long, so yeah, really happy about that. But then we get into this massive whopper of a book. The first book in my May TBR is this book, Ruthless Fae by Caroline Peckham and Suzanne Valenti. It is book number 2 in the Zodiac Academy series. So I loved book 1, The Awakening, and book 1A, As Told by the Boys, and apparently book 2 onwards merges both the perspectives of the girls and the boys, and so they just merge it into one book. So I'm really excited about that, but 16 hours to focus on one book is going to be tough for me. In saying that, I do love what I've read with Zodiac Academy so far. So it's not to say that I'm not looking forward to getting back into this book. I am. I think the stress for me is more, I like finishing 3 books in a week, and I don't know if I'll be able to finish 1 in a week, but we'll see how we go. If somehow I manage to finish Ruthless Fae before the week is out, the next book I will pick up is this one, The Lost Book of the White by Cassandra Clare and Wesley Chu. I have mixed feelings going into this book. This is book number 2 in the Eldest Curses duology, which has Magnus, Vane, and Alec Lightwood front and center from the Mortal Instruments series that Cassandra Clare wrote. And my mixed feelings are, on the plus side, can't wait to get back to Magnus and Alec being front and center in a book. Really, 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 really can't wait to get back to it. But I also know once I finish this book, then that duology is over, and any and all opportunities that I would have in the future to have Alec and Magnus be front and center in a series are done, because they only wrote 2 books. So, yeah. It's a double-edged sword for me, but I am looking forward to it as much as I'm not looking forward to being done with the book and therefore done with that duology. But that is it. Those are the books that I read this week and the books that I'm looking forward to reading next week. How did your reading week go? Let me know in the comment section below. And are there any stresses that you deal with when it comes to reading and the expectations that you place on yourself? But in the meantime, I'm going to leave it there and let you all go with peace, blessings, and so much love. Please do be kind and love one another and spread your sparkling energy all throughout the world. And until next time, happy reading! Bye everyone!